On a freezing October morning in 1961, the world came closer than ever to witnessing the end of civilization. The Soviets had built a bomb so powerful that even the men who designed it feared pressing the button. It wasn't just another weapon. It was the Tsar Bomba, the most powerful nuclear device ever detonated in human history. A single explosion so enormous, so terrifying, that it made Hiroshima look like a firecracker. But here's the twist. The man who helped build this doomsday machine would spend the rest of his life trying to stop such weapons from ever being used again. This is not just the story of the biggest bomb ever tested. This is the story of science, politics, fear, and one of the most dangerous games humanity has ever played. The late 1950s were a strange mix of hope and terror. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a deadly arms race, both nations pouring resources into building bigger and deadlier nuclear weapons. But for a moment in 1958, the world sighed with relief. Both powers agreed to a voluntary suspension of nuclear testing. It seemed like sanity had prevailed. Perhaps humanity had finally recognized that one wrong move could end life on Earth. That fragile peace lasted just 2 years. In May 1960, the Soviets shot down an American U-2 spy plane deep in their territory. The United States denied it was spying, but when the captured pilot was paraded before cameras, the lie was exposed. Nikita Khrushchev, the fiery Soviet leader, was outraged. He stormed out of a peace summit with President Eisenhower, slamming the door on cooperation. The Cold War had just turned ice cold once again. Khrushchev was not a man who liked to be embarrassed. To reassert Soviet dominance, he demanded something the world could not ignore: a nuclear bomb of unprecedented size. This wouldn't be just another weapon. It would be a symbol, a display of raw power so terrifying that even America would have to think twice before challenging the Soviet Union. And so, Soviet scientists were handed an impossible task: design a 100 megaton nuclear bomb. That's 3,800 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A weapon so devastating that even within the Soviet Union, some wondered if such a thing should exist at all. At the center of this challenge was Andrei Sakharov, a brilliant physicist and one of the minds behind the Soviet hydrogen bomb. Sakharov was no ordinary scientist. He was deeply thoughtful, and while he worked on nuclear weapons out of duty, he also feared their consequences. But when Khrushchev demanded the impossible, Sakharov had no choice. He and his team worked relentlessly, creating a 3-stage hydrogen bomb unlike anything ever conceived. The original design was for 100 megatons, but Sakharov convinced Khrushchev to cut it in half. Why? Because a full 100 megaton detonation risked breaking the planet's atmosphere and causing global fallout. Even at 50 megatons, this would be the single largest explosion in human history. October 30th, 1961. The Arctic archipelago of Novaya Zemlya, a remote, frozen wasteland chosen because no human city could possibly survive what was about to come. A massive Tupolev Tu-95 bomber carried the colossal device, codenamed Big Ivan, but soon to be remembered as Tsar Bomba. The bomb itself was the size of a bus, weighing over 27 tons. It had to be attached to the plane with a special harness and fitted with a giant parachute, slowing its descent just enough to give the bomber crew a chance to escape the blast. At exactly 11:32 a.m., Tsar Bomba was released. The crew turned the bomber as fast as they could, flying away at maximum speed, praying they wouldn't be caught in the firestorm. Seconds later, the sky turned to fire. The detonation was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, or will likely ever see again. A flash of light erupted so bright it could be seen from 1,000 kilometers away. For a split second, anyone looking directly at it could have been blinded. Then came the fireball, a sphere of pure destruction expanding wider than Mount Everest is tall. The mushroom cloud soared 64 kilometers into the sky, 7 times the height of the world's tallest mountain. The blast wave circled the Earth 3 times. Windows shattered in Finland, more than 1,000 kilometers away. Buildings hundreds of kilometers from ground zero were reduced to rubble. The island beneath the blast was completely vaporized. Even the crew of the bomber, over 40 kilometers away by the time it went off, were nearly thrown out of the sky by the shockwave. This was power beyond imagination. A weapon too large, too destructive to ever be used in war. The world was stunned. The United States condemned the test. Other nations feared what such a weapon meant for humanity's survival. And within the Soviet Union, the scientists themselves were shaken by what they had unleashed. For Andrei Sakharov, it was a turning point. He realized that nuclear weapons weren't tools of power. They were tools of extinction. In the years that followed, Sakharov became one of the most outspoken critics of nuclear proliferation. He pushed for arms control, for treaties, for peace. His transformation from bomb maker to peace activist was so profound that in 1975, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Zar Bomba was never meant to be dropped on a city. It was a symbol, a brutal demonstration of Soviet power in the darkest years of the Cold War. But its true legacy isn't just the size of the explosion or the mushroom cloud that reached the edge of space. Its legacy lies in the moral questions it forced humanity to confront. Should weapons of such destructive power even exist? And how close are we, even today, to repeating the same mistakes? The Tsar Bomba was the loudest sound humanity ever made. And yet, its greatest impact may have been the silence that followed. The silence of a world realizing that some lines should never be crossed.